How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, aka Slammerella, and today we're finally going to do that Movies to Get to Know Me Volume 2 video, and that is going to be the non-horror, and I guess I should probably say non-superhero movies too. So non-horror and non-superhero movies that kind of define my tastes in, well, movies. I apologize for this shadow here. I got my lamp on the ground instead of like up high this time. So we're gonna start off with some of the earlier stuff that I got into as a kid, probably anywhere from like 7 to 6 or 7 to around 11 or 12 years old, and kind of watched quite a bit of it. And the first one I got into when I was really young was Jim Carrey, and one of the very first movies I saw from Jim Carrey was Ace Ventura. This movie was a staple in my childhood. This movie made me want to be a comedian. It gave me that class clown kind of attitude and would constantly try to tell jokes and make people laugh. This was one of those movies that kind of cemented my personality going forward in the future, and I have a lot of that to thank to Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura character and all of the weird mannerisms and things like that, and also kicked off my obsessive need to quote movies and stuff like that throughout my life. So Ace Ventura is a huge one that was big in my childhood and cemented my love for this kind of comedy and wacky humor and stuff like that. So you could count me as a Jim Carrey enthusiast over an Adam Sandler enthusiast, because they kind of have slightly different styles of comedy. I just prefer Jim Carrey's style of comedy over Adam Sandler's. So Ace Ventura is a big one on this list. Keeping in the style of Jim Carrey, another one that I watched over and over and over again with my cousins and my sister and my mom and dad. I would constantly watch Liar Liar. The fact that this guy had to tell the truth no matter what the situation was led to the most hilarious scenarios and situations. Just this kind of straight up lawyer guy that has no sense of humor, who just wants to win cases no matter what, whether he has to lie or cheat or embellish different things with his clients, then all of a sudden having his kid wish that he tells the truth no matter what, as you can tell, probably creates some really confrontational and really out there situations and scenarios for that character, Reed Fletcher. But this was absolutely killer. This made me die laughing so many times. Every time I watched it, it was still funny. The relationship between the dad and the mom and the kid was really heartfelt and relatable to me when I was younger, and even to today, it's still pretty relatable. So yeah, Liar Liar in all of its glory was huge as a kid when I was younger, and kind of wrote what my tastes were going to be in movies going forward. Now, going from comedy over to the sci-fi end of things, we have Jurassic Park. That movie was pretty cool. The soundtrack obviously was the biggest thing. The dun 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 dun. That classic theme was a big part of it, especially when you first see the dinosaurs and the brontosaurus stand up on the hind legs, and both the scientists are like, holy shit, and finally realize that these things were real, and the scientists made actual dinosaurs. The story in it was great. The character acting was great. The dinosaur effects for the time were really impressive. Just, I can't count how many times I've seen Jurassic Park in my life. So many, and with a bunch of different people I've seen it with. Once again, my mom and dad, my sister, my cousins, a couple of friends who sat down and watched it with me, and it was on quite a bit in my teens and young childhood. All right, another one that kind of stood out that's not quite science fiction is Indiana Jones, more specifically the Last Crusade film. I'd be showing it, but I kind of have these movies packed away right now. I actually own a copy of Jurassic Park and all of the Indiana Jones movies. They're just kind of packed away in storage at the moment. But yeah, Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade specifically, I must have watched 20 or 30 different times with my dad. It was one of our favorite Indiana Jones films. It had a lot of really cool scenes in it, with him running away from the Nazis, with him going through different traps and stuff to unlock rooms and find different items. The interaction between the dad and Indiana Jones was really captivating and humorous at times. There's just a lot of really cool stuff with Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, not to mention the other films, Temple of Doom, the Ark of the Covenant, and just the lore that surrounds the Indiana Jones series. We're not mentioning Crystal Skull here. It was alright, I have a copy, but we're not mentioning it. So yeah, The Last Crusade, excellent movie. One of my most favorite films of all time that aren't horror or superhero related. Alright, now jumping back into kind of sci-fi that almost borders on horror at times, but is mostly just action. And that's the Terminator series. More specifically though, T2 Judgment Day. My love of Arnold Schwarzenegger films was born when I saw Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and just the imagery alone is classic, is timeless, and all of the, once again, film kind of references and quotable lines. I'll be back, John Connor, the T-1000s, the all of the brutal scenes, but also the really cool tech scenes and how he explains what he is. The robot cybernetic fights at the beginning and end of the movies, the Sarah Connor plotline in this as well. Just all of that really cool. I absolutely love the sci-fi and technology and action adventure of it. And then the rock and roll soundtracks in it, obviously, with like Guns N' Roses and probably AC/DC and stuff like that. Classic kind of like metal and hard rock soundtrack that go along with the sci-fi elements, the robotic cybernetic elements and everything that's going on. Them trying to stop this terrible apocalyptic future from happening, and the rise of the machines. Just everything about this series, especially T2 Judgment Day, was fantastic and a staple in my taste in movies. Kind of going on the other side of the scale, but the same sort of thing, more family oriented and whatnot. Short Circuit. Short Circuit always held a special place in my heart for films as a kid. Just this really friendly robot who just wanted to live life and discovered that he was sentient and wanted to research and just learn as much as he could about the world. And then he befriends this guy at the factory where he's built. He becomes friends with him, but when he escapes, he ends up befriending this lady called Stephanie. And his relationship with her is really funny and cute and kind of heartwarming, and the ending is pretty touching as well. But this is also a neat little sci-fi movie slash family movie that also deals with tech and sentience of robots and stuff like that. If you don't get touched by Short Circuit, I don't know if you have a heart in your body. So Short Circuit was also another one of those sci-fi ones, but on the opposite scale, not like almost horror-esque and like action-filled. It was more for family-oriented and more heartfelt. We're going to keep going with the sci-fi thing just to keep it in that for right now. So that's the Alien series. More specifically, my favorite and the one that I've watched the most would be Aliens, where Ripley's going back into space and she has to lead a colonial marine type core group back to the planet. I want to say 4571b, but I feel like that's wrong, unless I'm thinking of Subnautica. But yeah, the second one is so good. There's so much action. There's so much creepy, dark atmosphere to it. And then they meet Newt, the little girl that survived on the planet for probably a month or so or more, until they figured out that it's been taken over by these xenomorph creatures, and it's eaten like 50% of the population, and the other part of the population has been kept in this incubation chamber and is now being bred for more face huggers and xenomorphs and stuff like that. And then the climactic battle with the alien and Ripley at the end, just fantastic. So the Alien series, but more specifically Aliens, was definitely a staple in my tastes for sci-fi and the kind of creature films. All right, next is one that some of you will really like and some of you really don't care about, depending on your love for Johnny Depp, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean. This one is just, I don't know, if you're a young kid, probably more than likely a young boy, you more than likely liked this Pirates of the Caribbean film, the first one, The Curse of the Black Pearl. It has the sea-faring pirates searching for treasure, and it has this mischievous captain that has been usurped from his boat, and he's trying to find a new ship and crew, and is being chased by the former crew members of his ship, and trying to find a way to re-establish his leadership of the Black Pearl. It's really funny. Johnny Depp's quirky mannerisms in it was fantastic. There's quite a bit of quotable lines in this, like "Fetch me the horizon" and "Bonnie Lass" and "Parlay" and all that kind of stuff in here. The very piratey language and Tortuga and things like that. Very cool. And the seafaring romp that this is fantastic. And not to mention the score. I know I mentioned the score when it came to Jurassic Park, but the very like adventurous and swashbuckling compositions for the score in this is fantastic. You'd be hard pressed to find too much better score than this and Jurassic Park and stuff like that. So the Pirates of the Caribbean series has held a big part in my heart. Going a slightly different adventurous kind of turn, this one I kind of threw in there last minute, but I couldn't have this list without this in it because I've watched this holy fuck so many times, and that's Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. This is kind of your embellished origin story of how Jack Black and Kyle Gass got together and formed the band Tenacious D. It adds in elements of supernatural, elements of adventure, and kind of even has like a heist thing to it as well at one point. But this kind of reimagining and supernatural exaggeration of their origin story is absolutely fantastic. The only reason why you wouldn't like this is maybe it's too cheesy for you, or the type of humor, it doesn't work. But I feel probably 7 people out of 10 would probably just love this movie. The guitaring in it isn't the most technical and crazy, but it's groovy enough and it's catchy enough to stick in your head days, months, years after the movie's done. The humor in it's really good. The seemingly on-the-spot lyrics that pop out of Jack Black's mouth for a couple of these songs at the beginning, especially for Classico, is great. And the ending track, Beelzebub, when they're fighting the devil, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this, is so fucking good. It's insane. The song at the beginning, when the little kid version of him is playing the acoustic guitar song to his parents at the kitchen, Kickapoo. That line, "'Twas I who fucked the dragon, fuckalizing, fuckaloo." Just come on, that is so funny. I die every time watching it. And there's a lot of like cool behind the scenes stuff in this movie as well, and the lore that they build for this is great. I really wish they made a sequel to this and did as good a job with this like guitaring and riffs and like furthering the story. Maybe have them break up again and come back together with a new story, or a third person, like a drummer. Like, you need a drummer for this band. I know Dave Grohl plays the drums for their studio albums, but man, it'd be cool if they found a drummer in the same way they found this. Maybe the Sticks of Destiny or something. I know they leave this off with like the Bong of Destiny or something stupid, but I'm not really a drug guy, so that didn't really appeal to me. But yeah, this movie was fantastic. Watched it more times than I can count. All right, going back to some sci-fi. This one started my love for martial arts, but There's another movie on this list that actually did kind of start my love for martial arts as a kid, but this one really kicked it into hyperdrive for my teenage years and my getting closer to adult years. The Matrix is fantastic, especially the first one. I really enjoy the second one as well on a different level. There's a lot more like supernatural kind of elements and kind of sci-fi elements to it. And then the third one, there's only like a one or two different fight scenes, and then the ending, obviously that end fight scene. But yeah, the first two films were the best. I rewatched the first Matrix a goddamn million times, I swear, so many times. And the games that went along with it were good too. Enter the Matrix was pretty good, and then the Path of Neo was fantastic. I've played that game, so many hours of that game. And then the soundtrack to this is not bad. The ending Rage Against the Machine song was pretty sweet. It definitely ended the song on a perfect note of him becoming the one finally. Spoilers if you don't know that already. But man, for when this came out, this was the top of the line kind of fighting film, and special effects and bullet time was created because of this and everything. So yeah, The Matrix is definitely high up on the list. All right, we're going to keep going with the fighting kind of movies, and that's one that I don't have a copy of right here, but it's The Forbidden Kingdom. The Forbidden Kingdom is fantastic. It's the culmination of all your childhood dreams of wanting to become this martial arts master and get revenge on the bullies in school or bullies in your neighborhood who terrorized you, who make your life a living hell. You want to just eventually just be able to defend yourself and kick their fucking ass. And Forbidden Kingdom did that. It has Shia LaBeouf, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and a couple of other kind of hidden celebrity features in the movie. It was really, really good. It has an excellent story. It's sort of like a fantastical version of the Karate Kid, maybe like the Karate Kid for like the mid 2000s age, maybe somewhere between millennial and Gen Z version of the Karate Kid, but even more fantastical and crazy. The Shia LaBeouf character, he gets beaten up by these kids and ends up being knocked out, and I think going to this other realm, either in his mind or actually going to another realm. That part's kind of left ambiguous, but he goes into this other realm and he ends up learning and being taught kung fu by Jet Li and the Jackie Chan characters in it, and he eventually defeats this royal martial arts guy of the Forbidden Kingdom and saving the land and all that, and then eventually goes back to Earth and whoops the bullies' asses. So I love that movie. I've seen that so many times, and I highly recommend it. And it's just, yeah, so good. All right, we're going to continue on with this martial arts thing, actually, before I go to a different genre, and that is Three Ninjas. Now, this is the movie that really got me into martial arts, my appreciation for it, my intrigue for it. And once again, The Three Ninjas, the first movie, Rocky, Colt, Tum Tum, they get taught by their grandpa or something how to learn karate and some other martial art. I don't know if it's like karate specifically. I'll have to go and either buy that movie again or watch it again. I don't even know if I actually own a physical copy of this thing. That's kind of sad. I need to make sure I own a copy of this movie, and you should probably check it out too. It's a little dated by now if you haven't seen it, but it's cute. It's a really cute martial arts kids movie, coming of age type of thing, because I think the oldest brother in this, Colt, or is it Rocky that's the oldest? I don't know. But he has a crush on this girl, and he has to like fend off these assholes at a basketball court and use his ninja skills. And there's that love interest in there. But the main thing is this company is taking over the gym or something of the grandpas, or the company of the grandpas, and he's sabotaging it somehow. So the kids have to break into the main bad guy's company and figure out how to stop it and stop I think there's some drug trading going on. So they take it upon themselves to thwart this guy. And eventually the film ends with a fight between the grandpa and the main bad guy. You probably know who wins. It's a family film. So, but he defeats him in a really, really funny way. Yeah, it's just a really beloved film that I enjoyed as a kid, and I think you should watch it too. All right, one more kind of fighting movie before we move on to a couple slightly different sidetrack things here. And that's one I actually do have a copy of again, and that is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was a huge, huge thing when I was young, like 10, 11, 9, 10, 11. And I really, really loved the Sega Genesis game. And then I heard that they were coming out with a movie based on one of my favorite games at the time, being Mortal Kombat. And I still regard this as probably one of the best kind of martial arts slash video game movies of its time. Some people don't like it as much, some people do, but I enjoyed it. It is what it is, considering the amount of story that Mortal Kombat has and the amount of really stuff you could do with a fighting game at the time. So yeah, the characters were all portrayed perfectly in this. Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, Kano, Shang Tsung. Just the cast in this was fantastic, and the fighting scenes were pretty entertaining. I think one of my favorite scenes was probably between Liu Kang and Reptile. It's a pretty quick scene, but it's also really, really fun and enjoyable. And of course, the fight between Scorpion and Johnny Cage was really entertaining. Lots of great stuff in this. And then the final battle between Shang Tsung and Liu Kang. So yeah, Mortal Kombat is a must. All right, before we move on too drastically, I'm just going to throw this last one in here. Now, I know what you're saying. Really? That Mario Brothers movie? It was nothing like the game. Well, it might not be anything like the game, but I really enjoyed it anyways. The characters' interaction were good. John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins really bounced off each other really well, like almost like they were brothers for real. And John Leguizamo is like the perfect Luigi in my opinion. Bob Hoskins, he's a pretty good Mario. I don't know if I could think of anyone else who would play Mario any better. I don't like Dennis Hopper. His portrayal of Koopa was kind of weird for me. I didn't like it. I know a lot of people complained about the Goombas. It would be kind of unbelievable though to have a live action Mario and Luigi fighting these little like foot tall mushrooms and have that believable and actually scary. So having these giant tall dinosaur lizard creatures, the ones that look like the Koopa Troopas and the ones that had the heads of Goombas, you can't really see that. But yeah, these ones look more like Koopa Troopas, and these ones look more like the heads of Goombas. That was neat, and they threw in Yoshi for shits and giggles. I like that they threw that in there. But it was classic. I enjoyed it. It's not a perfect video game movie, of course. Creative liberties, people. Creative liberties. It's a thing. And I enjoyed what they did with it. Some might find it cheesy. Some might hate it for not being super duper close to video game lore or whatever and the designs. But if you look beyond all that, it's actually a pretty solid film. Cheesiness and all. Alright, and we're going to end this video with talking about a couple of ones that are all pretty fairly similar. This kind of style of film was kind of cemented mostly by Freaky Friday and Mean Girls. You've probably all seen Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls with Rachel McAdams and Lindsay Lohan. Those kind of led the way for me to enjoy movies like The Hot Chick with Rob Schneider. It's just like that teen girl type of humory drama movie. It's kind of hilarious to see Rob Schneider switch bodies with Rachel McAdams and him as a dude try to do girly stuff and her as a guy try to do guy stuff. The dichotomy is really amusing, and if you're kind of questioning yourself as a young teen, this could probably provide some amusing commentary on that and maybe give you some insight. I don't know how to explain that, but as someone who's like myself, who's not quite straight, not quite super duper masculine, or not quite binary in the sense of guy and girl and all that stuff, I really found the Rob Schneider's The Hot Chick kind of amusing and very relatable. And then this movie. This movie, I don't know if too many of you have seen, but I've watched this so many times, mostly with girlfriends in the past, because most of my girlfriends in the past like teen chick drama movies, so they didn't have a problem with sitting down and watching these over and over with me. And then She's the Man with Amanda Bynes. If you haven't seen it, basically this girl who wants to get into a better school ends up dressing up like her brother, pretending to be her brother, trying out for the local soccer team. But at the same time, she's also really, really good at soccer, like women's soccer. So she's learning the ropes with the guys and trying to get on the team and do her best. But while she's doing all this, she has to do it as her brother Sebastian. And it leads to some really, really funny kind of interactions with her and Channing Tatum there. And she's like, it kind of comes off as slightly homophobic, or maybe a lot homophobic, but the interactions between Amanda Bynes as Sebastian flirting with Channing Tatum, it kills me. It's so funny. This movie is great. If you're willing to open up your mind and kind of not let that kind of thing bother you, like if you're a straight cis dude, you're probably not going to want to watch this. If you do and you enjoy it, congrats. But if you're I don't know, questioning or on the fence or in the LGBT community at all, you'll probably enjoy the fuck out of this movie. I know I did, or I'm just weird. But yeah, She's the Man with Amanda Bynes. It was one of those top kind of teenage drama movies for me. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed this. I would say another kind of couple of quick special mentions would be Fired Up, which is like another kind of teen drama movie that is really amusing. These two dudes try out for a female cheerleader team because they want to score with more chicks, and they think that if they join this cheerleader camp, they'll be able to do that. It's pretty amusing. And then on the comedy side of things, you got Freddy Got Fingered. I really, really enjoy the off-the-wall humor and like gross out stuff and weirdness of that. But yeah, that's my list of movies to get to know me in the non-horror and non-superhero genre of things. Let me know if you've seen any of these. Let me know if any of these are your favorites. Let me know if you plan on seeing any of these ones that you haven't heard of. And just give me your thoughts generally on any of these movies. I'd love to hear what you think of them and if they're on any of your top 10 or 20 movies that aren't horror or superhero stuff. Cheers for glory for the Rebel Alliance. Slammerella out.